introduce our first reader. Kirk Wilson's work has recently appeared in Confrontation, Eclipse, Folly, The Langdon Review, Meridian, Midway Journal, The New Guard Literary Review, River Teeth, Soundings East, The Wordstock 10 Anthology, and Valparaiso Fiction Review. A chapbook of poetry, The Early Word, was published by Burning Deck Press. Kirk's nonfiction book, Unsolved, an investigation into 10 high-profile murders, has been published in 6 editions in the US and the UK, and he lives here in Austin. Please welcome Kirk Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Look at this, cousin. Can you imagine? We've got family and dear friends and probably people who just wandered in because they love this stuff, poetry. And we're getting to do it in this store that loves poetry and does such a wonderful job of promoting poets and poetry. So I think we ought to start with applause for Malvern. And I also think that it's only right and fitting that when we all leave, these shelves be a lot emptier than they are right now. I don't mean that we should steal anything, but it would be really nice if you could buy some books while you're here. And buy my cousin's book too. Okay, I'm going to start with several brand new baby poems that still have their booties on. And the first one is called What Brings You Here? And this one requires a little bit of setup. I don't want to cause anybody anxiety, but it has the word burrow in it. Joe, are you at all bothered by the word burrow? No, good. It's a relief. But the reason I have to go into it is that it is the kind of burrow that ends in OW, i.e. the kind of place that you would live if you were a prairie dog. It's not the kind of burrow that ends in a simple O and is what you would be if you were a donkey. It's kind of burrow. You were all straight. And the poem is called What Brings You Here? Are you responding to a message? Were you swept up in a crowd that seemed to be going places? Are you in between flights? Are you in the market for a burrow? Did you meet someone in a mirror? Are you not alone in the right measure? Are you looking for what you have lost? Do you wish to start over? Are you responding to a message? Were you swept up in a crowd that seemed to be going places? Are you in between flights? Are you in the market for a burrow? Did you meet someone in a mirror? Are you not alone in the right measure? Are you looking for what you have lost? Do you wish to start over? This one is called Waiting. I have settled in a comfortable chair in a corner of a peaceful room, and I am waiting to find out how the universe will end. In one scenario already underway, there comes to pass a great unwinding until the star you like to wish upon winks out. The protons all break up their marriages, and red dwarfs go brown as sparrows. In another, everything comes to the end of its tether, grows tired of running from everything else, and tries to go back home. Until that bitty melon of infinite density that contains the first things and the last that same busy womb that banged in the first place, gets another chance, a do-over, winds up like a cuckoo and bangs again. In other words, at the end, we will either be too far apart or packed too close together to survive. By then, I will be waiting in the dark because our star will have long since petered out. But I will see it through, and I will keep it to myself so as not to spoil it for you. And I will remain in my seat while the credits roll so I can stand and walk into the unsun, unset, knowing whose idea the whole thing was. This is called Dinner in the Old Hotel. In the old hotel, I met a master of the spy game. Outside was a burial ground. Outside was a garden in glorious flower. I remember the dead were in the habit of using the back door. I remember the threatening beauty of a descant voice I thought might be a siren. I remember to include the disclaimer. My memories have filed suit against me, demanding new interpretations. My marginalia grows restless. It has all become as complicated as carrying a shadow. I remember the dead never bothered to knock. There was a young man, too, an aspiring poet. The old spy disdained him. He had no intelligence of value. The young poet was wounded. He tried to write a poem about it for the next 50 years. Outside was a grimy seaport, once used by the Romans. Outside were all the ones I had abandoned. I could not see if they were ghosts or memories. I could not see if they had formed up in a line or dispersed into a loose crowd, talking amongst themselves or nurturing their secrets. Perhaps they had not come at all. Perhaps they had better things to do, shopping or wandering amongst the tombstones or weeding in the gardens. Those outside were noticing the siren call of the earth to falling objects. Outside, everything they touched had been touched 10 billion times before. And the touches left impressions. The touches were magnetic. The touches were repulsive. The touches were connected to this and to that over there, that too. The memories have won their suit. I am to re-remember everything. I am to record how this means everything, and so does that, and that over there, that too. I am to look expectantly at every day. This is called still life. We woke up naked as grapes. We lifted the blinds. And there was the luminous world, some tiny fraction of it living and the rest of it dead. But that is history, so forget it if you want your breakfast and want to go downstairs and work on your miniatures and reach with the stems of your words into the stillborn fractions we feed between ourselves for what is beautiful about a stem beyond the poem of its function. And what can you mean outside that place where you are so comfortable there, in your own so thickly thin, so gorgeous in the light, so wine red skin? There's a very old poem here called God. One day God says to me, "Pancho, where art thou?" And what could I say? I was in Juarez with this angel named Asbestos Tile. I saw in the mirror my man-sized size, but fear and love still grew in me. And not so much me now, but it. I said in Juarez. This is called a small problem with the roof. After my mother died, I called her on the telephone and listened to the ringing in the room I knew was empty. She was the last of the generation famous in the small world of my lifetime. And I wanted to tell her how, with her death, it seemed I was evicted upward through a house of generations, crating my blue dreams and my silver webs as the ones who had lived on the floor above moved on. She had been there already. So had she answered, she could have said, "I know, I know." When I told her with what surprise I looked finally upon the open sky, though I knew all along it was waiting. This is going to require opening a book. It's called The Periodic Table. In my mother's house, a table stands in the absence of voices. Its wood is made of the bones of saints, and the dangerous sound of the flute is in the bones. But the wood is stubborn and will not speak without burning. It is a problem of muscle memory from the saw, of airless space the size of playing fields, and the nervousness of atoms. If I could speak as the god Pan spoke before everything he loved was ravaged, I would say to the wood, "Here is the green world. Burn, burn and sing." So this one is called Deus Ex Machina. The light, a great horse, prances and flies. In Los Angeles, the sidewalks buckle where the Deus Ex Machina has come. The children pass as they are always passing. The light, a sudden music, chimes along their skin. The aircraft speak in the voices of dragons. The avenues end in the sea. The light, a stone, waits, as all stones wait, for the transubstantiation, for the word. This one's called Gypsies. The gypsies came, she said, dark as crows, and camped by the gate of the farm. And as she lay in the night, she heard their music carried on the air like silver ash, beguiling as it damned, for they were thieves of souls who vanished in the day. And in the vapor of their wake, a cow, a chicken, or a child was never seen again. The night sky was onyx then. The galaxies so near they pulled at you. She married young, a railroad man who dreamed to be a farmer. By the time he got the gold watch and the farm, The gypsies had lost their way in the night. Coyotes sang for her, but it was not the same. It was the violin that called, as though she had a secret name. It's called Rules for Objects, another very old poem. Always say thank you to the car after even an unpleasant ride. To the toilet named Magnolia, good morning. For the terrifying pencil, the telephone you couldn't love, repeatedly, I'm sorry. Carry one another heavily. Be friends. At the funeral of the trousers, be lost in grief for days. This one is called White Herons. You can see a bunch of these down on Lady Bird Lake. White herons. The herons came in for the night, the canes of their legs reaching ahead into the trees, their wings ladling air for the landing. They quarreled in the voices of frogs, shuffled for position on limbs, one discharging another into the blue field of the evening. Wintering here, they await the call that will pull them to the lunatic dance of their coupling and the dependent spandrel to a next generation. All this at a vanishing point where they must believe there are still other waters. Beside me then you spoke of Sienna, the great horse on the stage, the young girls singing in the tunnels in a place I've never seen. The heart winters too in its season. There are rivers and moons, roosts for the night, and the pull of near remembered distance. We watched until transforming dark settled all argument in its indifferent cloak, and the birds became pale fruit above the water. One more. I contributed some poems to a literary magazine not long ago, and they asked all the contributors to contribute something else that told why they write. I thought that was pretty interesting. Why do people write anyway? So I'll read this. It's not really a poem, but it's why I write. I write because writing is the black sheep sibling of prayer. The urgent struggle against a bad connection. Intent, hopeful, innocent, never quite good enough. I write because writing is madness, and madness is necessary. I write to have the last word. I write because there are a trillion subatomic cracks in every word, and if you hold it to the light just so, you can see the ghost of the face of the unsayable on the other side. I write because writing is a shot in the dark. I write to seduce my attentions, and yours too, if you are available. I write because I failed the course in small talk and cannot paint or tap dance. I write because someone or something keeps winking at me from behind the curtain of the world. I write because I am involved in a love affair with life, and love affairs are complicated. I write to find out what happens next.